Ah, good evening to you, worthy friend. Please, please, come closer. Yes, closer. Okay, too close. It's not my mouth I want to show you. Ah, all right, there you go. Welcome to the wonderful world of Disney, a land of mystery, enchantment, and the finest remakes this side of Hollywood. Get your tickets now. Come on down. Oh, look at this. Our 2017 Beauty and the Beast, nominated for 2 Oscars and made more than $1.2 billion at the box office. And of course, based on a masterpiece that's so good that no one could even break the songs. Take a listen. It broke. Oh, look at this. The 2014 Maleficent, taking a classic and twisting it to expose a more appealing form of a memorable character. Let's see. Ah, still good. Oh, wait, don't go! I see that you are only interested in the exceptionally rare. I think then you would be most rewarded to consider this. Do not be fooled by its commonplace appearance. Like so many things, it is not what is outside, but what is inside that counts. This is no ordinary remake. It is based on one of the most beloved animated films from the 1990s for its fast-paced animation and great comedy. It has developed quite a legendary legacy within the Disney world with its impactful sequels and a successful Broadway show. Perhaps you would like to see the film? Well then, watch this.
Watch out! You done wound me up. You ain't never had a friend like me.
Yeah, when a salesman tries to sell you something, you should never expect that they're being honest with you. So with that said, let's talk about the remake of Aladdin. As it is making the jump from animation to live action, there's no hiding that it did receive a downgrade. Most namingly, how the jump made it become visually dull. One of the standout elements from the animated film is the way that it used color in order to tell its story while also giving the movie a high energy to always make every scene interesting and fun to watch. In the remake, however, most of the color got sucked out in favor of adding lots of little details in the environment, which doesn't deliver the same effect and sometimes can put the focus out of the characters that the audience is supposed to pay attention. Even the CGI isn't all that appealing, where it only stands out when it features the genie or the animals just being animals. The only exception to this would have to be the costume designs. At least that does try its best to give out more color and some life onto the scenes, on top of really selling the idea that this is all set in an Arabian environment. But even with that, it still fails to capture the visual essence of the original and results in having Agrabah look dull. But that's not the only thing that's significantly weaker than the animated film. If you think that was bad, wait till you see what the remake did to Jafar. Now, some may have commented before on how attractive the actor was, but in here, he's one of the biggest turnoffs. Throughout the film, his acting is constantly so stiff and nearly monotone where he always sounds like he's mildly whining about his food not tasting as good as he expected. It's almost like he's the real dad of the kids from the Dumbo remake.
I can make you rich. Rich enough to impress a princess.
We're all family here, no matter how small.
Bring me the lamp. Your life begins now.
Look at me. We're gonna bring your mama home.
Then again, Jafar isn't the only character making things worse for the movie. In an attempt to differentiate itself from the original, the film added a new character named Dahlia, who is Jasmine's handmaiden. Not only is she completely pointless to the feature, but also obnoxiously cringy with how she always tries to force out a joke with her airhead-like personality. I guess there is no surprise here that there are many elements that fail to capture what the animated film managed to do so well. In fact, there are some elements that we remember the most fail that ended up falling flat in the remake, like the villain is just embarrassing, the visuals aren't interesting to look at, the new additions only make things worse, and yet there's still not enough for me to call this a legitimately bad movie. Yes, as much as there are prominent flaws in this movie, there is still a good amount of elements that help make the feature go up to be at most enjoyable.
one of which being possibly the main reason why many would want to see this film, Will Smith as the genie. Okay, not everything about him is great. The CGI when he's at his full genie mode is laughably bad. Not only is it obviously out of place from the rest of the film, but also the effect looked like it turned Will Smith into a blue Shrek. However, when it comes to his performance, he actually inadvertently succeeded in capturing the spirit of the character. In the animated film, it's Robin Williams being a cartoony Robin Williams, and in the remake, it's Will Smith being a cartoony Will Smith, which also allows him to be unique in his portrayal with his charm and delivering a good amount of humor that is actually funny.
I could just make you a prince.
Oh, no.
Right, you'd be snuggled up with that dude for the rest of your life.
Y'all see my palace?
I'll even give credit to most of the actors as well doing a pretty good job on their roles, like Mina Massoud as Aladdin. Granted, they don't let out their full potential to the levels of their animated counterparts, but that less has to do with the actors and more at fault from the writing and the weak directing. Outside of that, most of the actors do well with the materials that they're given. But none of them, not even Will Smith, is able to outshine one significant person whose performance is able to meet to the standards of the original feature. If there's one reason that can justify this movie's existence, it's Naomi Scott as Jasmine. For the first time in a Disney live-action remake, we got a princess that's actually good! So far, the ones we got right now have acting and singing skills that range from a plank of wood to a short-circuiting robot, but with Scott's Jasmine, she's like a breath of fresh air that now there's an actress that actually does care and put effort in portraying not just a Disney character, but what many consider to be a role model. While she is a princess, what she wants most is to have her own freedom, to travel the world and let her voice be heard instead of just serving to the authority of men. With Naomi Scott's performance, she made it all feel believable and present that there is a lot more to her than her royal status.
What did you say? Do you trust me? Yes.
But of course, since this is Disney's Aladdin, you can't get out of this without talking about the songs. And in terms of this movie's rendition of them, I'll admit that they're alright. The most I would criticize is that the visuals don't capture the same amount of high energy as the animated film. Again, weak directing. But on their own, they do have some changes in the lyrics or enhance the theme to have them either sound more Arabic or give more of a hip-hop flair to make it more accustomed to Will Smith's music style. Other than that, they mostly stay true to the original versions, so they are at the very least decent on their own. Except for one. There is one new song made for the film called Speechless, made by the same songwriters of La La Land and The Greatest Showman. And it turned out to be the weakest of the film. Listen, I love the idea of giving Jasmine an entire musical number that has a meaningful message, and Naomi Scott is also a great singer. It's just that with Speechless, like with many of the works from those songwriters, the execution makes it feel soulless, like it was corporately crafted to make it sound like any other pop song you heard on the radio, resulting in it feeling bland and easily forgettable.
There is one thing, however, that could potentially be a make or break deal for those who are possibly interested in checking this movie out. Now, in the movie, in the remake of Aladdin, 95% of it is actually a shot-for-shot remake of what the original animated film already did. There is almost no difference at all between the remake of the movie and the animated film. They both pretty much have the exact same story. In fact, I would say that the biggest difference between the remake and the animated film is that the remake is in live action, and that is pretty much it. Now, there are some people who might hear this, and they could consider that a good thing, because that would actually make it a lot easier to go and recapture and relive the magic of the original 1992 film. Others, and based on my experience from watching the movie, I would actually consider myself in this camp. Others would actually go and they would just sit in the theater, they would watch the film, and they would just ask themselves, why am I sitting here watching this movie right over here when I could actually go and save money, sit at home, and just watch the animated film so that I could literally have the exact same experience? And that's probably the biggest problem with the remake of Aladdin, is the fact that it feels like the writing literally just took the script of this movie right here, just make a few slight adjustments, and consider that as an entirely new movie on its own, resulting in the remake to feel, well, hollow.
The 2019 remake of Aladdin is a movie that exemplifies the saying, "Be careful what you wish for," where it does deliver a live-action version of the 1992 animated classic, but it also comes with its set of burdens. The costumes are really nice, but the visual wonder is gone and replaced with a colorless environment and unimpressive CGI. It features great performances by Naomi Scott and Will Smith, but at the cost of a classic villain that's now weak. It stays true to its source material, but so much so that it makes it nearly pointless, and whatever new addition it tries to include either end up feeling forgettable or irritating. My best recommendation for this is to see it once just to compare how it is to the animated feature and go from there. Also, on its own, I'd recommend this to people who love the comedic side of Will Smith. If you're a fan of Will Smith comedies like Hitch, then you'll most likely have a good time with this one. As for my rating, there's a lot of factors with this mixed bag, but I think it ultimately results in a 6 out of 10. It has a lot of problems, and it's nowhere near as good as the original, but on its own, I do count it as passable, and it does put in a bit more effort than something like the Beauty and the Beast remake.
When I was watching this and noticed that there is very little difference between the animated film and the live-action remake, while I still wouldn't call this a bad movie at all, there is still something that the live-action remake does rub me the wrong way. No pun intended, of course. You see, when watching it, I feel like Aladdin shouldn't be the proper title for this movie, but instead, it should have been called Prince Ali. I know that sounds weird, but hear me out on this one. In the movie, in order to go and try to win Jasmine's heart, Aladdin tries to disguise himself, with the help of Genie's magic of course, as a prince and create a fake identity in order to go and enter the palace and actually meet up with Jasmine in the first place. Now, this would go and lead up to the moral that it's best to just be yourself instead of just lying about who you are. That, in a way, Aladdin first tried to go and win Jasmine's heart by pretending to be something that he is not. This is exactly what the remake is trying to do. In order to try to go and win audiences' hearts, the remake tried to go and parade around by pretending to be something that essentially it is not, by using the magic of big budgeted CGI and live action extravaganza with elaborate sets and some choreography, not all, but like some of it. It's the fact that it's pretending to be a beloved Disney classic, that it's trying to say that it is the Aladdin that you all know and love back in 1992. And yet when audiences see it for themselves, they know that really it isn't the case. They know that when they're watching it, by the end, they just feel like they've been lied to, that this is not the Aladdin that they have promised that this would be. And on top of that, it also feels like Disney pretty much lied to us and they kind of cheated us out of our money just on the fact that they sold us a product that is far less than what they try to sell it to be. This here is the real Aladdin. The remake is Prince Ali. But then again, why the fridge am I complaining about this? We could just wait a few months and we could pretty much forget that this movie even existed in the first place. The one good thing about these Disney live-action remakes is that their life cycle of relevancy is actually pretty short. See you later, dudes!
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.